Incoming chat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome one more time. This is actually season 3 of Incoming Chat, the H2H communication podcast by LiveChat. We had a great season 2. We talk about with a lot of people. We put together a bunch of different live videos for you. We're going back to a little bit of mixing our previous format with the live format. And this is what we're doing today. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Burc Tanir from Prisync. Burc, a pleasure having you in the show.
Yeah, pleasure being here. Thanks a lot.
Burc is the CEO of Prisync, and he's going to talk about a little bit more about what the company is doing. So I'm going to leave him to talk about that. But we're going to try to dig in this episode on pricing strategies. Why is it important? It's if you have a SaaS or an e-commerce shop, why you have to pay attention to what are you charging and what is your competition charging too. So Burc, tell us a little bit. What's Prisync? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, sure. In essence, we provide competitor price tracking plus dynamic pricing solution to e-commerce companies of all sizes, I would say, from all around the world. So as of today, we work with hundreds of e-commerce companies from, I think, more than 60 countries. Obviously, like dominantly, we work with, US-based, UK-based, European retailers, but we also have, customers from Mauritius, Nigeria. So it's a really global thing, I would say. So basically, we help, those companies that already does this, manually to automate the whole process. Because, you always have maybe if you go back to 10 years ago, 5 years ago, those e-commerce companies had, junior employees or maybe interns in their team. And I mean, the worst case is their senior employees were basically sitting in front of the computer and browsing out the websites of their competitors for the exact same products that they are selling on their website to identify their price points. So They had kind of this, let's say, this is basically the real story, and this is the reason why that I dived into this business, because I had many friends, who had this as their daily task. So they were sitting in front of this computer where they had, multiple tabs open, and they were all competitor websites. So they were simply going to those websites, copying and pasting price points of multiple products, preparing an Excel file where they have all these, product names, price points, etc. And this obviously took tons of time to populate. And after populating that, they were basically crunching this price data to come up with new prices on their web shop. So this was let's say, a task that took maybe a week for 100 products, 10 competitors. So essentially, pricing... Yeah, that's a lot, and that's really not that effective, I would say. I mean, 100 products is nothing if you retail, thousands of products. So essentially, we do this whole process in an automated way. So companies simply only import their products. We find their competitors. We automatically track their competitor prices 4 times a day. And according to dynamic pricing rules that they can set from the dashboard, we even automatically change their prices according to the rules that they set. So, that manual work is currently mitigated thanks to this.
All right. So it's a constant process. It's not that you just give them this is how much they charge. And you're actually analyzing the differences.
Correct.
All the
Correct.
time.
Yeah, that's true. 4 times a day, to be specific.
Cool. How long you guys been doing this?
We started up this back in 2013, but I would say, like in the case of many SaaS businesses, like software as a service businesses, it took us a bit to really figure out, to really find the product market fit. And in our case, we guys are based in Istanbul, Turkey, where the software as a service market is quite really in early stage. So we really found it hard to scale the business in our country. So it took us about 2 years to really come up with a product that works. So I would say we mimicked those folks for about 2 years by manually doing the same task on behalf of our customers before really building a product. And after 2 years, we learned quite a bit about the process, all its, dirty stuff and stuff. So we basically launched the real business back in 2015. And since then, I would say we have been growing with typical digital marketing initiatives in the global markets.
All right. Well, I have to ask you this because it's fresh in our memory and still going, to be honest. Having the whole COVID, it killed tons of startups. I have friends that they had to stop. They did remortgage their house just to get money for the startup, and then the startup's gone. So now tons of startups are in big debt. How did you guys cope with the whole process? How was it for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has multiple dimensions. So first of all, people think that we are at the backbone of e-commerce. So our customers are e-commerce companies. So all those companies flourished. So people might expect that we had, increased demand in our business. But I think in March, April, where the COVID really hit the global market, like after China, obviously, like China was hit maybe like in December, January, but the rest of the world, our markets, let's say, were hit especially during March and April. So around at that time, regardless of the industry of companies and actually of people were basically in a commercial shock, so they didn't really think about investing further in their business, even though that solution might have provide return on investment. So as we majorly work with small and medium-sized businesses who were facing a lot of lockdowns and stuff, we received a lot of requests from our clients saying that, sorry guys, we need to pause our subscription, we need to cancel this and that. But we probably foresaw that this was something like how to say a temporary issue. So we talked to those people and said, I mean, we basically communicated with every single one of them by arranging Zoom calls. And this is, I mean, hundreds of customers, by the way, not 10, 20, something.
It's
So
like everybody on the phone now.
yeah. We spent quite a bit of time on the phone and on Zoom and stuff. And we told them that, okay, we don't really need to get any revenue from you in March and April, but don't cancel your subscription, but instead pay us only $1 per month. Keep your pricing account live. Use that data because that will be beneficial for you. Even though you might lose some sales, you can at least make some profit by optimizing your prices, this and that. And things turn out, in our favor, I would say. So though the majority of those companies switch back to full price in May instead of canceling their contract for the good. So we kept the majority of them. And in addition to that, after seeing this demand to our $1 per month campaign, we actually did a bit of marketing to our existing database, which includes companies that are not using pricing. So we kind of sent this message to them saying that, hey guys, you might be going through turbulent times, but you know what? We see that e-commerce companies who are using our solution nowadays are benefiting from that. So you guys are welcome to use our solution for $1 per month for, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months. Just have another extended free trial. So we even had new sales from that batch. So I think we just turned things into our advantage. And after that, I think, I mean, like I said in the beginning, even though we are an e-commerce tool, so we should have expected an increase in demand, things didn't turn out in that way in the early days. But I think after I don't know, 6 months period or 9 months period, so if we date things to now, we started to see increased demand, because I think the primary demand increase happened in the let's say very primary levels of e-commerce. For example, payment gateways probably have seen surge demand. Platforms like Shopify, blah blah blah, are at the direct, let's say, funnel of the increased sales of e-commerce. But tools like us basically remain at the secondary.
It sort of drip down afterwards.
So now I think like after this growth in e-commerce, companies restarted basically investing in new technologies because this market grew. They also saw that this will continue to grow. So now I think we are starting to get some increased demand post-COVID. This is the summary that I can draw.
I was going through your background before. Like, I know you were a marketer before too. So that is brilliant what you're doing. You have to sort of save your own company by offering $1 subscription, but then you started using it as a marketing tool.
Yeah.
And it's working great.
Yeah, I mean, I have the, I don't know, good or bad, reflex on things where I try to turn everything into a marketing tactic. This turns out negative in some situations, and our team kind of pulses me there. But in majority of the cases, it works out well if you have the good intentions. So here, we were not really fooling people at all. So we were literally saying that, okay, guys, you can come back, use the solution for $1 for 2 months, 3 months.
You wanted to keep them, right?
Yeah. And if you don't want to keep that further, you can simply cancel it out. So we will basically make losses for the 2-3 months period because you won't have, lifetime values at our end, blah, blah, blah. But as it was also beneficial for them, so as it was a win-win, it worked out well for us.
That's brilliant. I insist. So when you came out with pricing a bunch of years ago, it took obviously a bit for it to pick up. Now, why did you found this specific thing, I mean, how do you turn this simple problem, which is people tracking their pricing, in something important for them? Like, what was your messaging, or how did you figure out ways to communicate? Look, I understand this is a problem to having to go through hundreds of pages of pricing for you to figure out your own pricing or improve your pricing. Like, how was that process of finding or turning this problem into a startup?
Yeah, I would say it was a pretty analytical method. But I mean, before actually just going back to that date, I think we should go back a bit earlier, because I started up another business prior to Prisync, which was eventually failed, and I think I learned quite a bit things from that failure, because that startup idea came to my mind when I was basically, I don't know, backpacking across Southeast Asia, around Southeast Asia. So I was in an island in Thailand after graduation from university. So I was basically chilling on the beach, this and that, chatting with friends that I met down there. So I came up with this mobile app idea, which was, I would say, mostly like Tinder, before Tinder. I'm not claiming that I'm very proud of Tinder at all, because I didn't have any execution vision, etc. So those guys managed that. I only had the idea of kind of meeting like people nearby and stuff. So I sent an email to a friend of mine when I had a really, really small amount of internet on that island about this idea. So I finished my vacation, which means basically I finished all the money that I saved after graduation. So after 3 months or so in Southeast Asia. So I went back to Istanbul. I met that folk. So he said that, the idea you sent me sounded really interesting. So why don't we build a prototype around that? And to give you some context, by the way, I studied industrial engineering, but the last 2 years of mine were actually not really spent on attending any classes or something. I already decided to become a neuroscientist. I know that I might be going quite off the track, but make sure that it will all merge down there. So I was totally out of this context. So I had no intentions of starting a business, even being part of a business. I decided to become a scientist, this and that. But that guy convinced me to join him with this ideation kind of process. And we spent one evening in his office where we had this absolute stereotypical, founder story, like, I don't know, the social network movie. So we had all these post-its and stuff. So I really loved that process, even though it meant nothing commercially. So we started that business. It was called Popcorner. But anyways, I will wrap it up. So that idea actually came from no problem. So it just came to my mind in an island. It didn't have any target market. It didn't have any, I don't know, let's say proper business plan, this and that. And we still executed that for about 1 year. We built a prototype, but eventually it failed. So that failure taught me that a startup idea or any idea should originate from a problem before the idea itself. So that time I said to myself, okay, now I should be more analytical this time, because I still wanted to start another business after the failure. So I looked around and noticed that e-commerce was the market to go after back then. But I obviously didn't want to start another e-commerce shop myself, but instead I wanted to, provide some services to e-commerce market. So this was the primary decision. And then I dived deep into e-commerce and met a lot of friends who were working in e-commerce companies. And I noticed that this competitor price tracking stuff was done manually by many of my friends, regardless of the industry of the company. So I followed the process they were following. So it was totally terribly executed and stuff. So I came up with this idea of automating that terrible process. So that's basically the beginning of the story, I would say.
All right. And then it's obviously been working great. I mean, you're telling us that things are doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you think is the competitive advantage for companies to have a pricing strategy? Why do you think it's important for them to look at this? Because I mean, a lot of companies just open up and like, we'll charge $100 for why not 99? Why not 99.99? Or like, what it really helps companies to pay attention to other companies' pricing?
Yeah. I mean, good question, but I think I have an easy answer to that. So first of all, like if you are selling a product that can be found elsewhere, the shoppers can find that alternative easier than you can. So they can simply go to Google Shopping, or even they can simply go to Google, write for that product name, brand, whatever. So they can end up with multiple results alongside yours. and the 60% of the customers are basically picking the one with the cheapest price. So this is actually kind of not a theory, this is a fact. So if you don't really monitor those competitor prices, you will make sure that you will be always, losing that potential click to come to your website from those comparison engines from Google. But this is basically the point where you will lose the opportunity of being competitive. So you might be, higher than the average or higher than the cheaper price. But the other reason why we recommend companies to use our solution is that they might also be too cheaper than their competitors in some cases. And this is actually just leaving tons of money on the table, because let's say you have a nice supply relationship with particular brand A. So those guys are providing you a particular product group at a really, really, let's say, competitive purchase price. So you buy that actually product at a really, really comparatively lower rate. So if you add, let's say, cost-based markup on that, let's say 10%, you might actually end up at a really, really cheaper rate than the cheapest of your competitors. So in that case, okay, you will make a lot of revenue, you will make sales. But if you have increased your prices maybe like for 10%, for $10, you would still make same amount of sales. So that additional $10, that 10% would always add on to your top line and bottom line. So this is the actually main use case, the main benefit that we are providing to our customers. So just knowing where they stand in the market. If they are standing at the higher end, we recommend them to apply smart discounts. And in the opposite case, if they remain at the bottom end, we recommend them to increase their prices in a smart incremental way.
All right. So because I've been working with a lot of startups, and usually they obviously want to make money, right? I mean, that's the whole idea of coming out with a cool idea. But the pricing is always a bit, because if everybody's charging 100, but they think, but my solution is so much better, or my product is so much better, like if it's a physical product, so I'm going to go with 10 times the price. Because at least in my opinion, there's sort of a range that if you go beyond the range, you come this luxury thing that your amount of customers are going to be reduced, but if you hit the right messaging, you're going to make a lot of money. Same the other way around. If you're too cheap, you will come across as it can't be that good because it's too cheap. So how do you think picking the right price affects the future of either the shop or the company?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the cases that we address, by the way, is the case where you have competitors who are selling this exact same service or product. So, you don't really, in e-commerce, for example, obviously you can differentiate by service, by returns and stuff. But if you are selling, for example, an Apple MacBook, you can find the exact same MacBook on other web shops as well. So the product is at the end of the day same, if it's going to be shipped properly to your address. But in software cases, for example, or in more specific like service businesses, obviously two softwares can never be the same. So the differentiation can come from the product itself. And in that case, we always recommend, we don't really work much of such businesses, but we always recommend value-based pricing rather than competitor-based pricing, because as soon as you start benchmarking your price against your competitors, you start to fall into the trap of being a follower rather than innovator. So you try to match your prices against your competitors. You even try to copy their feature list, this and that. But I think in service businesses, in software businesses, the competitor prices should only provide you a guideline, not a benchmark. So, for example, obviously, if you are targeting the same segment of the market, you don't need to be 5 times, 10 times higher than your competitor, but you can be a little higher or a little lower than the competitor, not necessarily the same price. But like I said, all examples that I provided earlier was for the retail case, where the companies are selling the identical products that can be found elsewhere. But in software, in services, it's mainly a value-based approach that we are also following, at our end. So we are slightly higher than our competitors because we provide something that our competitors don't provide. For example, like 7/24 live chat support. So that really works well in that regard. So companies are also valuing that as an extra. So that's how it works.
And I was going through some of your customers. Is it because this is not just for someone doing drop shipping from China? you have big names under your belt. I mean, you've been working with iFixit, which is one of my favorite shops, and Suzuki. Jesus, I mean, Prime Rose. So you do have an important, not only a number of customers, but an important range of customers. So it doesn't matter, and it's probably like if you're at home and you go to their page, you can see that it's not really something that small shops do. It's basically every company, doesn't matter the size, has to be keeping an eye on what's the competition doing. What do you think is the best way for companies? Because and I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean, you have a classic pricing page in your site. How do you recommend people to come across with their pricing pricing ranges or strategy? Like what's the best way for them to explain what are the benefits of, or the reasons why they charge this much? Like how do you even do it in your own company?
Well, I think it's pretty tricky if you are targeting both sides of the market. By that I mean if you are targeting both small and medium-sized businesses and at the same time enterprises. I think that's the trickiest case for SaaS pricing, software pricing. And we primarily made the decision of targeting small and medium-sized businesses. So that's why we have really clearly communicated pricing page on our website. So the majority of our competitors are, for example, not displaying their price on their website. So you request a quote and this and that. And this might also work for multiple cases. But we really want to become the vendor of this market, which has, thousands of customers, because we built such a product that can scale to that level. Because, I don't really want to go into technical details, but the area of business, the business that we are dealing with is really hard to scale, and we cracked that. So that's why we are probably the single vendor in this market who can provide this service to small and medium-sized businesses. So because of that technological advantage, we primarily target small and medium-sized businesses who can visit our website, see that our pricing starts from only $59, so they can associate themselves with our pricing. So they can see that this is actually something that I even can use because I'm a small business. So the only downside of this is actually pricing ourselves too low when it comes to, for example, iFixit or some enterprise clients who can maybe pay 10 times the same money. And in that case, we are now investigating ways of, let's say, trying to go up market to see what those companies would pay as an extra. So we are not really after any intentions like charging them more for the same service, but instead we are now listening to their pricing strategies to see what they would pay as an extra, for example. So we want to also go after a value-based pricing approach, so to see what they really value in our services and what they miss in our services. So we will potentially add an enterprise plan, which will be also catering to them. But we will hopefully remain in this small and medium-sized level, where we will be clearly communicating about our pricing strategies. I think it really depends on the marketing approach that you are following. So we really want to be a self-service, scalable software as a service product, which can be used automatically, like self-service. So we don't really want the users to feel the friction of, requesting a demo, sending an invite to receive a price or this and that. But we just want things to go seamlessly. If the business strategy is another one, another pricing communication can be also followed. It depends on the business.
And you guys are based in Turkey, but most of your customers are very international. How was your approach to this? You had the idea, you build up something that, like you said in the beginning, it was basically you just checking the prices, and it turned out into a super helpful thing to do. Now, how was your experience as an entrepreneur to sell your idea to the world?
I think it started with understanding that this is actually a global thing. So we basically, first of all, observed the problem in our local market, but we directly noticed that this is actually a global thing. So this is not a local market issue, but even the companies in the US, in the UK, in Europe are also doing this manually in a terrible way. So as soon as we noticed that, obviously we started the whole marketing communication in English. So this is not a really novel thing for a US-based startup, but this is actually something. This is at least a decision for a company outside US, let's say. So we made that decision, and we started in English in day one. So we started to receive obviously demand organically. So we invested a lot of time in our organic traffic. So we started to receive a lot of inquiries in that channel. And as soon as we started to do that, we noticed this time zone problem because we had a lot of US-based leads which requested calls at midnight our time.
Yep.
So we started to forget about sleeping at all and this and that. And after that, we started to also receive a lot of demand from Asia Pacific region, Australia, and it basically the puzzle got completed
24/7.
Yeah, totally. And at that point, we decided to build a team that's distributed across time zones. So we, for example, now currently have 3 teams distributed across Asia Pacific, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Americas, South and North, for both the LiveChat and inside sales end. So if a customer, for example, if a lead, for example, now visits our solution, if they want to get informed, they now get a counterpart in their own time zone. If they become a customer, we also provide the 7/24 LiveChat support, again, in their time zone. So this was actually the main paradigm shift that we needed to invest in, which paid off immensely. Like I said, somehow, for some reason, our competitors are not doing that. So this is actually not a, technological advantage, but this pays off, a lot for us. So we receive a lot of, let's say, testimonials, praises just because of that. In our live chat box. So they say, thank you guys, you are really helpful. You respond in seconds and stuff. But we feel like this must be the way to do. But somehow,
it is, right? It is. That's the thing. Many companies forget that. After all, you're there to serve. It's a company. If you want to make money, you have to be there 24/7, basically.
Yeah. I think it's maybe like we also discussed this internally. So this might be also something cultural. I'm not a super, like local guy and stuff, but at least I have some certain, let's say, attitudes and stuff from my region. So we guys, like Turkish guys, are really, really welcoming. We really value hospitality. For example, even if I don't know you, and if I see you on the street, and if you say that I need to place to crash, I need to place a stay, I will host you at my place. I just give you my couch. So I think we kind of treat people in the very same day. If they visit our website, we feel like they are visiting our shop in Grand Bazaar. So we say, "Oh, welcome, come in, let's shop."
Oh no, I've been in Turkey many times, and I remember that.
I think we kind of basically like follow the really same attitude in our business.
Yeah, but that's great. Having this concept of hospitality on a digital business is a great idea. Now, what else do you guys do besides, like, obviously having a website? Like, how do you sell your product, or how do you reach out? Do you guys use just social media, or what are the ways that you're trying to approach new customers?
So I think like before last year, we primarily grew via like digital marketing and inbound marketing without much of a paid budget. So like I said, we had a lot of like organic leads, and we slowly added some AdWords driven leads. On top of that, we started investing into Google AdWords, some other paid channels. But like with the start of last year, like 2020, we received a small seed round of investment with the motivation of investing in an outbound sales team who could have prospected into like our target markets via mainly LinkedIn, to let people know that we exist, I would say. So just to ring the doors of the e-commerce companies who are potentially doing this manually, to let them know that they can automate that. So we started to get a lot of leads from that model since I would say like mid last year. And obviously with the new investment, we started to double down on new paid channels like, LinkedIn and stuff. So at the moment, I would say like the majority of our leads are still coming in from organic channels like Google searches, referral links from different parts of the web. But additionally, we started to receive a lot of leads from paid channels and this outbound sales initiative. That's basically how we have been growing so far.
No, that's cool. And do you guys have any plans for new funding, or you, like, how are you planning to expand the company?
Yeah, we are still actually spending the same fund that we raised, because last year we didn't really invest that aggressively with the intention of a bit of cash preservation, to be honest. So we kind of see this year as a deja vu of last year. So we raised the fund like last January, and we act as if we just raised it again this January, and we started to actually plan things again. We started to scale up our ad channels and stuff. So hopefully, like this year will be the year of like exponential growth for our business, and potentially in the coming years. Obviously, if the business demands further cash to be injected in, we will be looking out for ways. to do so.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I'm glad that those things are happening now. For the new startups growing up there, we talk about a little bit about why pricing is important and how to keep an eye on it. Obviously, it's like throughout the stuff that you guys are offering. But if you have to teach someone with an idea, someone has a good idea, and if you have to teach them how to price, how to keep an eye on it, and how to promote their own pricing, what will be your sort of steps by steps that you need to do?
Yeah, I think it. If it's really in the beginning, I would not really care about price, to be frank. So I really believe that if you really have zero customers, the first revenue, I mean, if it's not really a huge enterprise business, right? So if it's not $1 million business, like with every single sale you make $1 million revenue, if it's a kind of self-service SaaS business, I think the primary, let's say, traction you need is actually usage. So you really need people, loyal people, to use your solution to prove you that they make return on investment from any investment that they would make. I mean, even if it's free, they would be investing their time. And if it's worth their time to be invested in your solution, it means that it might at least provide some benefit to the client. And after that, obviously, the most basic approach that can be followed, I think this is what we at least did in the beginning, is to at least calculate the cost of sales in the business, not maybe in day one, but you can project that, for example, in 12 months time. So you can see, okay, I will have one support person per 10 customers, and I will use this much of a server cost. And basically this is my cost of sales, let's say $10. And obviously in a proper software as a service business, you at least need, I think, like 80% gross margin or whatsoever. So you can maybe multiply that by 5. I mean, I'm not even talking about customer acquisition cost at all, but at least for running the business, running the service, running the technology, you might use this 1-to-5 ratio, which we basically followed in the beginning. And then you will need to add, for this remaining 80%, then you need to add the customer acquisition costs, which should be also in the range of, I think, if you are really aggressively growing in the very beginning, I think a ratio of even 1-to-2 in terms of like customer acquisition cost to lifetime value is okay, but 1-to-3 is the best, like almost the best. So according to that, you can see how much profit that you make at the end of the day in the very beginning. But like I said, I'm this might be a contrary thing to say, but I believe that the first traction that a startup needs in day one is not the revenue. So it doesn't really depend on price, but you really need loyal people who will at least invest their time, which is the most valuable, I think, asset of today, into your solution. And then I think the best way to determine the price might be also talking to those folks to see, why they decided to use the solution, what they were doing otherwise. So you can actually see the alternative cost, so the opportunity cost of not using your solution. So let's say maybe the guy will say that, I mean, without your software, I was spending 5 hours a week into this process. So you can at least tell him that, okay, I mean, your 5 hour a day is like $500 per week. So you can pay me, I don't know, $200 per week, which is a huge saving. So this is actually, I think, the good framework for the first few months. And after cracking that with the basis of, cost of sales and value-based pricing, you have a pricing in hand. And next to that, obviously, you need to have your competitors' prices. Again, not as a benchmark, but to give you a guideline. And I think that's a good way to start, at least.
And then it's just a matter of optimizing, I guess, is little by little.
Yeah, totally. That's it. Yeah.
So for you guys, what's the next for pricing? What are your next moves or your next plans?
I think pricing communication is, I think, kind of a let's say balanced thing. So I think we are now remaining at the very simple end of things, which can get a little more sophisticated, I think, because you can either make your pricing too sophisticated or you can make it too simple. And I think ours is too simple, so it can be a little more sophisticated. But this, I mean, we don't really. We won't really do things just to make it sophisticated, but I think what I mean is that we have a bit of room to add certain parameters to make it a bit more sophisticated. And by saying that, we will probably add certain power-ups to our plans where you will have a base price for the, let's say, base version, and you will also have, other than having different plans, like 3 plans altogether, we will have sub plans in each plan as well. So you can pick, for example, the basic plan A, but you can add multiple features to that plan A as an increment. So let's say the basic,
little add-ons.
Yeah, little add-ons, because our technology really contains them. So we really have small add-ons which cannot be really named as features, but small add-ons that can be charged as an increment. So we are now working on such a pricing plan, like first of all pricing strategy, then a plan, and then obviously a pricing page to be available on our website.
That's good. I mean, because usually you just see the 3 blocks or the 5 blocks or whatever, and there's no flexibility in between. So that's probably a good move. Burc, I just want to thank you for being with us. I think it's very useful for especially folks that trying to figure out, well, how much do we charge and where do we start and how do we put it all together. I invite everybody that is watching or listening to the show to go to Prisync.com. Sorry, I almost say a different one, Prisync.com. Go and check what they do. And of course, if you really learn something new today, just subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time. Burc, one more time, thank you so much for this.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot.
We'll see you around. Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you around. Ciao.
Incoming chat.